My husband and I have a 14-month-old daughter. She's a very fussy baby and constantly needs to be held until she falls asleep. I had to recently be with my sister for a night in a nearby town as she was about to give birth to her baby. My husband was supposed to take care of our baby. It so happened that my husband was sleep deprived like crazy, and after 3 to 4 hours of trying to quiet her down, he shut the door behind her nursery and decided to cool off for 30 minutes before tending to her again, which was understandable. That night, the power went out, which came back on again after a few minutes, and so did our Wi-Fi, which cut off the baby monitor, has to be manually turned on again, and my husband totally nodded off. He woke up 11 hours late. Even if our daughter screamed at the top of her lungs, which she was doing, screaming mama or dada and crying inconsolably, he couldn't hear her because her room is upstairs and our house is decently soundproofed. She was crying for 5 hours straight and slept sitting up. On the footage, I saw her standing up in her crib with her arms stretched out and crying and crying. I arrived in the morning to find my husband asleep, and my daughter, when she woke up, clung to me like a magnet and wouldn't let go. Her voice is hoarse, and it breaks my heart to hear her thin, squeaky voice through babbles. It makes sense to include that I am against sleep training. No shame to anyone who does that, but the thought of my little girl crying for me and no one responding is painful. She's also very much used to us, as we co-slept, not bed sharing, until 2 weeks ago. Transitioning her to her own room has been a task. It seems that she is freaked out. I tore into my husband and told him he was an irresponsible father. The least he could have done is set an alarm after an hour or so before he slept. And he didn't. He's upset with me while here I am seething. Am I the idiot? Update. I just apologized to my husband for how I spoke to him. Whatever insights I got from the comments below, what I observed in this entire situation, and realizing how far I've let things get out of hand, I do appreciate a different perspective. My baby crying in the crib while standing up for literal hours showed me how strong-willed and stubborn she is. I hate to say that babies aren't manipulative, but they cannot differentiate between what they want and what they need. She cried because she knew that one of us would come pick her up. And when that didn't happen, she cried and wailed even louder to the point of screaming herself hoarse. She put up a fight last night. I think if we don't find a way to sleep through the night, it'll end badly for all of us. So I might just try and discuss the right course of action when it comes to this with our pediatrician. I have heard horror stories on a sleep train sub with members encouraging other members to practically ignore their baby crying for more than 8 hours even, for several nights to get their babies used to the message that no one will come and tend to them. That's what I am against. Anyway, thanks everyone for their opinion and input. Clears things a lot. Edit. Just wanted to call out everyone who said I was chilling with my sister or that my priorities are messed up. My sister's husband is in the Navy, and I am the only family near her. She needed me. Next time, please use your personal dislike for a random Redditor towards doing something good for yourself and others, rather than assuming the worst of a tired and emotionally distressed mother. Choose your judgments wisely, because your assumptions have always a way of being wrong. Edit 2. I really feel that some people here really need to be put in their places. Yes, I accepted the judgment that I was wrong in being angry with my husband, and that was the end of it. Honestly, it's borderline audacious and unnecessary to comment on whether I was the AH for being with my sister that day, because I didn't ask any judgment on that, as it is immaterial. Just because I posted on a judgment sub doesn't mean I wouldn't call out those who use the "oh, you asked for it" card to justify their nonsense, and I will call you out on it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. How much sleep are you and your husband averaging each night? I'm asking because the fact that he slept 11 hours straight is concerning. You said so yourself that he's severely sleep deprived. I understand being upset that she was in distress and crying for so long, but he did not intend to leave her for more than 30 minutes, and he certainly didn't cause the power to go out. Yes, he should have set an alarm, but you don't make the best decisions when you're not getting enough sleep. Your judgment is off. He was doing the best he could under the circumstances and you overreacted. It's easy to say what you would or wouldn't have done in that situation. The fact remains, you weren't there. He was parenting solo and struggling to get Babe to fall asleep. Saying he isn't a good parent is crossing the line, and you're just adding fuel to the fire. Comment 2. You're the idiot. What is your problem? Did you actually read and comprehend what you wrote? Your poor husband is so stressed and sleep-deprived that he fell asleep, accidentally, for 11 hours straight. He did not do this on purpose or intend to cause distress to your child. He was simply exhausted and fell asleep. Sure, he could have set an alarm to wake himself up after desperately needing a 30-minute break. However, he did not cause the power to go out, and guess what? When you're so out of your mind with exhaustion, you do not always make the clearest or most sound decisions. Quit making life harder than it needs to be and acting as if you are so perfect. No doubt there's going to be times, if not many already, that you too are going to make mistakes. You better hope that he treats you with more grace than you're treating him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. I've got some updates that have been, well, let's just say it's been a roller coaster. After I apologized to my husband, we had a long talk about our daughter's sleep issues. We agreed that we needed to find a middle ground between our current approach and sleep training. We decided to consult our pediatrician for advice, and that's when things took a turn. Our pediatrician suggested a gentle sleep method that involved gradually increasing the time before we responded to our daughter's cries at night. It sounded reasonable, so we decided to give it a try. The first night was tough, but we stuck to the plan. Our daughter cried for a while, but eventually she fell asleep. The next day, my husband and I felt a sense of accomplishment. We were hopeful that we were on the right track. But that night, as we were preparing for bed, we heard a loud thud from our daughter's room. We rushed upstairs and found her on the floor, crying. She had climbed out of her crib for the first time. We were shocked and scared. We realized that our daughter was more determined than we thought, and her safety was now a concern. We spent the rest of the night taking turns holding her and trying to soothe her back to sleep. The following day, we converted her crib into a toddler bed, hoping it would prevent any more climbing incidents. We also decided to stay in her room until she fell asleep to ensure she felt safe and secure. That night, as I sat by her bed, I couldn't help but think about how my husband and I had met. We were both so young and carefree, with no idea of the challenges parenting would bring. We had promised to always be there for each other, and now, more than ever, I felt the weight of that promise. As our daughter finally drifted off to sleep, I looked over at my husband, who was dozing off in the chair next to me. I remembered the nights we used to stay up talking about our dreams and plans for the future. Now, our conversations were about sleep schedules and baby-proofing. On the third night, we were exhausted but determined to stick to our new routine. We read stories, sang lullabies, and stayed by our daughter's side until she was asleep. It was a bittersweet moment, watching her peaceful face as she slept, knowing that we were slowly helping her become more independent. But just as we were about to leave her room, our daughter woke up and reached out for us. She didn't cry or scream, she just wanted to be held. My husband and I looked at each other, and without a word, we knew what we had to do. We spent the rest of the night in her room, taking turns holding her and comforting her. It wasn't the plan, but it felt right. We were her parents, and no matter how tired or frustrated we would always be there for her. As the sun rose, our daughter was still in our arms, sleeping soundly. My husband and I were running on fumes, but we shared a silent understanding that this was just a phase, and it too would pass. My friend keeps going back to her abusive husband, so I offer help, but she turns on me. Now she's pregnant again, and I'm scared for her. I, 26-year-old female, am friends with Jessica, 28-year-old female. We've been friends since university. Jessica has been married to Mike, 28-year-old male, for 6 years now, and they have 3 children under 5 years old together. Mike has been hurtful since they got married. He was the perfect angel of a boyfriend, and did a complete 180 when they got married. He started physically harassing her, made her quit her job, and financially controlled her. I've been supporting her in any way I could since she confessed it to me. But as everyone knows, it isn't easy for a victim to leave their aggressor, especially when they have young children together. A year ago, after a particularly horrible night of Mike physically harassing Jessica, she showed up at my door and asked me to help her. He kicked her out of the house and kept the children. We called the police, and when they showed up at their family home, Mike was gone and the children were alone, crying, and neglected. The police got the children out and brought them back to Jessica. They were in the process of being assigned housing and money by the government to start a new life. But for a few days, they were staying at my house. 3 days after the incident, Jessica said she decided to go back to Mike and try again because he sounds sincere about changing this time. I tried to discourage her from doing this since she was just about to get a new house and a better life for her kids, but she didn't listen to me. She gave Mike my home address and he came to pick them up. I was pissed off that she gave him the address because Mike is an aggressor and I didn't want him knowing my address. They left, and much later that night, several of the windows in my house were shattered, and so were the windows of my car, but nothing was stolen. I called the police, but since there was no CCTV evidence in the area I lived in, I have no information on who actually did it, but I know it was Mike. It's too much of a coincidence that all that happened the very night he found out my address, and clearly the person wasn't trying to rob me because nothing was stolen. I have since moved houses. Anyway, not much has changed with Mike and Jessica. Yesterday, she asked me if she could come stay a few days with me because Mike has been drinking a lot. I told her I can help her look for an Airbnb or a hotel, and I'll cook for her and her children and help them with whatever else they need. She said she is anxious about staying at a place she isn't sure is safe, and my house is the only place she knows is safe because Mike doesn't know where it is. I said honestly, I'm terrified of him finding out my address again after what happened last time. She said she won't give him the address again, and I don't have to worry. This discussion went on for a while, but I made it clear that I am not comfortable with that, but I'll help her find somewhere she'd be comfortable in. She said she feels like I was the only person she could rely on, and I'm giving up on her too. She mentioned that Mike can't actually harm me because I'm not her, and that it says a lot that I'm worried about myself in this situation. I'm not sure if what happened last year is clouding my judgment and I might be making a mistake here, but I also think it would just be stupid to make the same mistake. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You are trying to help your friend while putting your safety first, as you should. If he was capable of vandalizing your house and car the first time, what is going to stop him from hurting you if he finds out your friend is staying with you and finds out where? You are doing more than enough by offering to help find a place for your friend and her kids to stay and be safe. I do hope you are able to help her, but at the same time, please don't put yourself in danger by doing so. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I helped a friend leave her aggressor several times. The last time I told her I wasn't going to do a damn thing if she went back. She did. Then when she called, I told her that I meant what I said. After a couple of broken legs and hospital stays and a protection order, she left him and managed to not go back once I withdrew from the situation. Some people just want to use you as a pressure release valve. They have no intention of changing or looking out for their kids. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since I last posted about my friend Jessica and her hurtful husband Mike. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but brace yourselves because this update is a doozy. After the last incident, Jessica stayed with Mike and things seemed quiet for a while. But then, out of the blue, she called me, sobbing. Mike had gone on another one of his rampages. This time, he had thrown out all of her clothes onto the lawn and set them on fire. Jessica was at her wit's end, and with nowhere else to turn, she begged me to let her and the kids stay with me, just for a few nights. I was torn. On one hand, I remembered the fear I felt when my property was vandalized, which I'm sure was Mike's doing. On the other hand, Jessica was my friend, and she was desperate. Against my better judgment, I agreed, but only after making her promise not to give Mike my new address. For a few days, things were actually okay. Jessica seemed relieved, and the kids were happy to be in a safe environment. But then, one evening, Jessica's phone kept buzzing nonstop. She was visibly nervous and finally confessed that she had told Mike where she was. She said he had been attending therapy and was making progress. He wanted to see the kids and promised to be civil. I was furious. I felt betrayed. But before I could even react, there was a knock at the door. It was Mike. He was calm, too calm, and he had flowers in his hand. He apologized for everything and asked to speak to Jessica in private. They went outside, and I watched from the window, my heart racing. After a long talk, Jessica came back in, alone, and announced that she was going to give Mike another chance. She said he had changed, and she believed in him. I was speechless. How could she go back to him after everything? But she was adamant, and the next day she packed up her and the kids' things and left. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and the bomb drops. Jessica is pregnant again. She calls me, ecstatic, saying this baby is a sign that their family is healing. I didn't know what to say. It felt like a disaster waiting to happen, but she was my friend, and I had to be supportive. Things were quiet for a while until last week when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Jessica, using a stranger's phone. She was at the hospital. Mike had pushed her down the stairs in a drunken rage. She was okay, but she had lost the baby. I rushed to the hospital, my emotions a mix of anger, sadness, and fear. At the hospital, Jessica was a wreck. She kept saying it was her fault for provoking Mike. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could she blame herself? I stayed with her until her parents arrived. They were distraught, having been kept in the dark about Mike's abuse all this time. The next day, Mike was arrested. It turned out that the neighbor had heard the commotion and called the police. But here's the kicker, Reddit. Mike was released on bail the very next day. And guess who bailed him out? Jessica's parents. They believed his story that it was all a misunderstanding and that he was a good man who just needed help. I was outraged. How could they be so blind? But Jessica seemed relieved that Mike was out. She said they were going to work things out, and her parents were going to help them. I've been keeping my distance since then. I can't watch my friend go back to that monster, but I can't abandon her either. It's like I'm stuck in this cycle with them, and I don't know how to break free. And then 2 days ago, something happened that I still can't wrap my head around. Mike was in a car accident. He ran a red light and got T-boned by a truck. He's in critical condition. Jessica's by his side, praying for his recovery. My husband tries to enforce the same rules on my teen son as his kid, so I stand up for him and the house erupts. Professional help might be next. 30-year-old female. I have a son named Tom who is 14 years old. My husband, who is 29, has an 11-year-old daughter named Anna. Our blended home life isn't without problems, of course, but for the most part, all is well. The only issue we encounter for the most part is what's fair to both kids. Like my husband doesn't allow his daughter to have a TV in her room, but I allow Tom to have one in his room. Since Anna doesn't think it's fair, my husband has tried convincing me several times to take the TV away from Tom so that it's fair to Anna. I've said no. Or my husband doesn't allow Anna to stay up past 7:30 on school nights, whereas I let Tom stay up until 9. This has also caused issues because Anna fights him every night trying to stay up because it's not fair that Tom gets to stay up. So again, my husband tries convincing me to just send Tom to his room from 7:30 on so that Anna thinks he's in bed too. I've said no. My son is allowed to stay up until 9, and I'm not adjusting his schedule or limiting him to his room simply because an 11-year-old doesn't think it's fair that a 14-year-old has different rules. I have adjusted other things to be more fair. Like prior to Anna and my husband moving in, I did allow Tom to eat in his bedroom, snacks, but Anna isn't allowed to eat in her room per my husband's rules, so I did tell Tom he can't eat in his room anymore either. So I have made adjustments, but I'm not changing everything to spare Anna's feelings. Both my husband and I have spoken to Anna and explained that Tom is older, so he has different rules, but she still throws tantrums and slams doors about it, so my husband just wants me to change everything around. Basically, it's getting annoying. Anyways, the newest issue is snow pants. My husband rented a family retreat cabin for all of us this past weekend. On Sunday night, we left Monday morning. My husband wanted to have a fire outdoors. We went outdoors and Anna started playing in the snow, so he told Anna she needed to wear snow pants because he didn't want her clothing wet. She starts saying she doesn't want to put on her snow pants and that Tom should be made to put his on if she has to wear hers. I immediately said, no, Tom doesn't have to wear his because he's not playing in the snow. Well, Anna started giving her dad a really hard time over it and was just overall whining about not wanting her snow pants on because it wasn't fair. And my husband kind of snapped a little and said, Tom, just go get your damn snow pants on, please. I want to have a nice evening. Just please go get them on. Tom said, I'm not even in the snow though. And my husband snapped, now, and pointed to the cabin. So I told Tom, let's go. And we both went indoors and sat on the couch to watch TV. Well, my husband came in about 25 minutes later and asked what we were doing, and I told him we weren't going to be treated like punching bags because his daughter is spoiled rotten. Tom wasn't in the snow, and since he couldn't control his own child, he decided he was going to control mine. At this point, and my husband raised his voice and said it wouldn't be like this if I would meet him halfway for once, because I'm showing obvious favoritism and causing resentment, because I allow my son to do a bunch of things that his kid isn't allowed to do. Am I the jerk for telling him that his kid being spoiled and throwing tantrums is not my fault and that it's on him to nip it in the bud, not me and my child's? ETA. It wasn't like this until maybe 6 months ago. After we got equal custody 50-50 of Anna. Prior to the equal custody, my husband only had her on weekends, and she didn't complain too often about things being fair when she was over. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Sounds like your husband doesn't want to parent his child. Kids throw temper tantrums. It happens. Parents need to deal with it. It's high time Anna learned life isn't fair. Deal with it. Your son is a teenager. There will absolutely be differences in what's appropriate for Anna versus Tom. Your husband needs to have a serious discussion with his kid. If he's tired of fighting, maybe be more reasonable. 7:30 bedtime, really? Comment 2. Odd that he refuses to meet you halfway to your goalposts, but expects you to meet him halfway to his goalposts. Tom has a set routine. Anna's introduction shouldn't completely dismantle that routine simply because your husband doesn't want to compromise on any part of Anna's routine. That's nonsense. He wanted to be a parent 50% of the time, but he doesn't want to put in the effort to be a parent 50% of the time. Not the idiot. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post about the snow pants incident. I thought things would calm down, but boy was I wrong. The tension in our blended family has only gotten thicker, and the latest drama has left me reeling. Remember how I mentioned that my husband and I have different rules for our kids? Well, that's been the root of all evil in our house lately. After the snow pants debacle, things just escalated. My husband has been on this kick about making everything equal between Tom and Anna, but it's been anything but fair. Just last week, Tom had a big history project due. He's been working on it for weeks, staying up late to make sure it's perfect. I've always encouraged his dedication to school, but my husband decided that since Tom was getting extra time to stay up for his project, Anna should get the same privilege, even though she had no schoolwork that needed extra attention. It made no sense, and it only served to confuse Anna about why she was staying up. Then there was the incident with the video games. Tom saved up his allowance and bought a new game he'd been eyeing for months. He was so proud, and I was happy for him. But when Anna saw it, she demanded a new game too. My husband, instead of explaining the value of saving and working towards a goal, just went out and bought her a new game. It was like he was trying to buy her happiness, and it was so unfair to Tom, who had worked hard for his. But the real kicker came when my husband decided to enforce a new family rule, that everyone had to spend the same amount of time on chores. At first, it sounded reasonable until I realized that he was giving Anna simple tasks like dusting the living room while Tom was stuck with mowing the lawn and cleaning the garage. When I brought up the discrepancy, my husband just brushed it off, saying that Tom was older and could handle more responsibility. The injustice of it all came to a head this past weekend. Tom had been looking forward to a school trip for months. It was a reward for students who had excelled in their classes, and Tom had made the cut. But the night before he was supposed to leave, Anna threw the biggest tantrum we've seen yet. She was upset that she wasn't going on a trip too and demanded that Tom stay home. My husband actually considered it. He said it might teach Tom a lesson about sacrifice. I was floored. How could he even think about punishing Tom for doing well in school? I put my foot down and said absolutely not. Tom was going on that trip, and Anna needed to learn that life isn't always about getting what you want. My husband and I had a huge argument about it, and things were said that I'm sure we both regret. In the end, Tom went on his trip, but the atmosphere at home has been icy. My husband has been giving me the silent treatment, and Anna has been avoiding me like the plague. It's like they've formed their own little alliance against Tom and me. I've tried talking to my husband about how his actions are affecting Tom, but he's stuck in this mindset that he's doing what's best for Anna. It's like he can't see the damage he's causing. And Anna, well, she's learning that if she kicks up enough of a fuss, she'll get her way. And that's not a lesson I want her to take into adulthood. Before Anna moved in with us full-time, things were so much simpler. Tom and I had our routine, and my husband would spoil Anna on the weekends. But it didn't impact our daily lives. Now, it's a constant battle of wills, and I'm worried about how this is going to affect both kids in the long run. I'm at my wit's end here. I want our family to work, but not at the expense of my son's happiness and well-being. I'm starting to wonder if my husband and I need some professional help to navigate this, because right now, it feels like we're just going in circles. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.